Alrighty, so in the midst of the new update, all of the JP like files and everything always kind of get posted on Discords and everything like that because they do like data mine through all of the new like images and everything. This is where I get a lot of my like images for thumbnails and blah 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 from. But there are two new holy relics that they have added into the game files. Obviously, they're not in the game yet, so I just wanted to go over those two because I think that they're very interesting and I think they could be potentially pretty good relics, of course. So, as sort of a preparation, I'll give you some suggestions on maybe how to build the characters if you don't have them already, or if you don't have gear for them, or whatever the case may be, because I'm kind of interested. I'm really looking forward to making these relics. So the first one we have is Nanashi, which I think is a pretty cool character. I don't use Nanashi all that much anymore, but his holy relic actually does look pretty cool. If we zoom in on it, you can kind of see. I know it's a little small. That makes it a little bit harder to see in a way without the background on it, but it is kind of a cool like purple color, and yeah, I don't know, it's got like a cool sort of what do you call that, a guard, like the blade guard or whatever. It's got like a cool eagle on it or whatever, but Nanashi is a very interesting character to me because he is of course a backline unit that is pretty decent even today. He's not like terrible. I don't think I would go out of my way to run Nanashi nowadays, but I did invest into him a while back because I thought that he was a good character. And if you don't know, he has a really, I don't want to say confusing passive, but there's a lot to it. Basically, you gain buffs if you have 2 or less cards in hand. You'll gain max HP, crit resistance, and crit defense buffs. And they're 20%, which is not too bad. It makes you a lot tankier, of course. And then for 1 turn, that additionally reduces the attacking enemy's ultimate move gauge by 1 orb. So if you basically attack a character twice, I think it is. I can't remember exactly how this one works. This is why I say it's kind of confusing. I think if you just attack the same character 2 times in the same turn, it'll reduce your ultimate move gauge, so it kind of like prevents you from just attack ult rushing, which is pretty cool. I don't know exactly what his relic is going to be, obviously, because they've already added it to the game files. I would imagine they've already come up with what it's actually going to do, but I think that he's just overall a pretty good backline unit. I, of course, have an HP defense set on him because he's a backline unit. Why would you not? And I do have, his, costumes and stuff like that invested into at this point. I don't have all of them completely maxed out. My camera's a little in the way, but all of his UR pieces I have went ahead and put the cosmetic materials into. So he's sitting at 60k CC. Not sure what his holy relic is going to add as far as stats go. I would imagine it'll probably bring his CC up maybe like I would say around like 2,000 to 3,000, hopefully. But I'm really interested in what the effect is going to do. If it makes him a lot better of a backline unit, I would definitely be for that. Hopefully it's not like a frontline sort of thing, like only activates when entering the battle, or maybe it would, I don't hope it's not game mode specific or anything, but I don't know, he's just a cool backline unit. I'm always looking for new backline units and stuff like that to use because I personally think that, the supports are kind of what make the damage dealers good. If you just run all damage, it's not normally going to be as good as having like proper support on your team. So just personally, I do like a good backline unit, so definitely interested in seeing what he does. The fact that these are coming out, and Nanashi in the game right now is an unknown unit, which means that he technically should be using the bird materials. I don't know per se if he's going to actually use all bird materials or not. It's been a while since they've made any new bird or deer relics, but I could definitely see them doing the weird like hybrid thing that they've been doing, where because the dogs are out at this point, he'll probably end up using the unknown like cubes, because why wouldn't he? But he may end up using dog materials, which would be really unfortunate because the dogs are so much harder than the other 2 Creature's Nest character or like fights, and a lot of people aren't going to be able to get this relic for a while. And normally these sort of side character relics aren't the greatest most of the time, so if it ends up being sort of mediocre, I think a lot of people are probably going to end up passing on this one, but I guess we'll kind of see, like, you know, I don't know, but I don't know, he does fall under the classification of unknown, so maybe we'll get lucky and it'll just do regular bird materials, but we'll have to wait and see on that, unfortunately. And then the second one is, they always title it as Thonar, but that's because it's the Japanese version. It's Thonar, which is very exciting, actually. I think this one is probably the most exciting out of the two, just because, obviously, Thonar is... the new red Thonar is obviously the dogs unit. You can only use her in Skull and Hati. So I think at the moment, Thonar's passive helps do the dogs tremendously well. Like, it helps so much, but Thonar as a character in general, for me specifically, I don't know, depending on what team you use and everything, my Thonar gets, you know, drilled on. Like, she gets targeted throughout the entire fight most of the time, unless something just weird and wacky is going on. So she's pretty much like priority number one. I have to run Tarmia Link on her to have her survive, and even then, if I get bad passives or anything like that, she's the first to go. And if she goes, the whole team falls apart without her passive, because I'm not doing nearly as much damage, and I can't get through the fight nearly as easy. So I don't know exactly what her Holy Relic is going to do. I think, if I'm being honest, they can probably make it specific to this one Thonar, because we do have two Thonars in the game, but this one is only used for death matches. Specifically, you use her for Belmoth pretty much, and I mean, I guess you could use her for Grey Demon, you know, and if you wanted to, but I don't know if that would be the way to go or not, really. But yeah, I think that they could probably get away with making this one very specific to the red Thonar, which I hope they do, because making the dogs easier is like priority number one for me. Like, if a character comes out and it's good for the dogs, I'm summoning for it. If a Holy Relic comes out that makes the dogs easier, I'm gonna try to build it. Like, I mean, it's just that simple. The dogs are really hard, and I have a lot of trouble with them. So anything to make that fight more consistent would help tremendously. So obviously, with both of these new characters, if you need to, this red Thonar specifically, I think this is the best set that you can use for her at the moment from what I have seen. Everybody seems to be running HP crit resistance gear with good crit resistance rolls, just because she does get targeted a lot. You don't want them to crit on her, because if they do, it's just going to deal that much extra damage. And then having her survive is obviously priority number one, so that's where the HP comes in. I did run her with an attack set for a little while, because I actually built the attack set originally for the red Thonar, and I wanted to do that because her actual ult removal card, like, it has a really bad multipliers on it. Like, this one has a 220 at level 1, but this one has a 120 at level 1. So this one ends up getting patience a lot on like floors 2 and 3. So I wanted to try to have that available to actually hit and remove ultimate move gauge, because sometimes the ultimates, you know, they're kind of a big deal and you don't want to get hit by them, so that would be really nice. But at the same time, depending on what her relic does, maybe this one will hit more consistently, depending on if it like helps raise attack stats even higher than her passive already does, or whatever the case may be. Maybe it'll lower the enemy stats if that is an option. I'm not sure. I think most of the demonic beasts and everything are pretty much immune to a lot of debuffs and stat lowers and stuff like that. But then again, Blue Brawler Bond also can lower their attack tremendously if he doesn't get hit. So maybe it will work somewhat like that, and help out and make this actually deal more damage. Who knows? But obviously they have a damage cap, so if the more damage you do, it can only help you so much, because you're eventually just going to hit the wall that they have sort of set up. So I would definitely recommend building an HP crit damage set, or a crit resistance set for her, because I think that is the best at the moment. And then for Nanashi, obviously I would just use an HP defense set, because he is a backline unit. So I don't know. Very interested to see what these new Holy Relics end up doing. I'm always a big fan of Holy Relics, and we haven't had any in several months, so not really sure why they've been kind of holding out on that, or if they've just been really trying to look at like the balancing and which characters actually need them or whatever, because I felt like whenever Holy Relics first came out, they were kind of just throwing them out willy-nilly, and then those characters now have no Holy Relic to get at this point that could actually make them any better, and they're still bad. So hopefully these are actually decent relics that will make the characters more consistent and usable again, but who knows, we'll see. So either way, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.